Well, we are from the school of canned cranberry sauce, so I feel like that paints a picture right there, basically. We're also apparently from the school of like giving side eye about like, are you gonna eat all that? Is that all you're eating? It's a confusing family. And there's like that one uncle that everybody's wondering, who did this motherfucker vote for?
They have a wonder?
Yeah, because if you bring it up, then it's out in the open. And what do you do? So it's just like, let's just not talk about it. It's gonna be fine. But mostly, we had pie cakin. Do you guys know what pie cakin is? It's like turducken. You know turducken, where it's like a turkey and I don't know. And it's like a pie and a cake and it's something.
So it
was
almost cake?
Yeah. It was two pies inside a cake. And I don't know what the is because there's a pie, cake, and in a turducken, it's chicken.
Right.
So I don't know what the is.
Maybe it was chicken.
You know.
Could have been chicken pot pie.
Maybe that's why I moved it. Yeah.
That sounds disgusting. Okay, so you apparently have a great relationship with your brother. At least that was what I heard. Yeah. What do you guys do that you're willing to share when you hang out together? Hey, what are you doing with that? No, it's just she needs to have some sensitive things she doesn't want to discuss.
You mean the drugs?
I didn't think we were going to go there, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like, I don't know if there's anybody else in here that has that, like, where they, especially with family, I feel like there are certain times where it's hard. We have, like, that very brother-brother relationship where it's like, okay, I guess I'll see you in 6 months, so, I love you. Okay, bye. Like, where we only communicate through, like, movie quotes and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you can't actually have a real conversation. And, like, sometimes actually the places where we get more real is over text. So, in a way, like, you know, there's plenty of valid things to be said about how texting is, you know, they're talking, but they're not communicating. And it's, I think it's actually the opposite is true in some cases. Sometimes it's like, I know that there are things that I would feel uncomfortable saying to his face that I can say over text, and it's basically anything sincere. I can't say it. So yeah, I mean, like we actually went to see this comedian Daniel Kitson in New York recently. So like that's the kind of stuff we do is like see theater. I mean, he works for a band, Brooklyn Academy of Music in New York. So he's always like got some artsy crap to take, you know, the New York elite, to take me to. So, yeah, we hang out and try to avoid talking about anything real.
So that actually makes me jump ahead in what I was going to get to later, but you two hung out in New York a lot when you were a kid and auditioned. Was he auditioning as well, or was this just you?
Yeah, he was. He actually did a show off Broadway when he was 14 or 15? 13, 14? Who knows? I don't know. I think he must have been 15. Yeah.
And how much older was he than you?
He's 2 years old, so he would have had to have been 15, I think.
Okay, so you used to, when you would audition, and would they tell you at the end of your audition where to call you back? Because they knew you were going to have to get on a train to go back to Maine?
Well, yes and no. I mean, generally, we didn't tell people that we were from Maine, because like it just kind of freaked people out. It was like, yeah, I'm from New York, yeah, cool, like, call me back whenever I'm around. And so, like, sometimes they would let us know right away, and other times we would be like at the bus station ready to go home, and like we'd turn on the for emergencies phone and have a message that like we had to go back and stay in the city.
How crazy.
Yeah, it is insane. Like looking back on it now, I'm like, were my parents high? What was that like?
That is my next question. Your parents were really unusually, not that parents can't be supportive of their children who are creative. I was lucky that way, but they would send off their 12 and 14-year-old on a bus. Mm-hmm. Is it because that they had taken you already to the theater a lot and you knew the city?
Yeah, I mean, they had taken us on trips like that before, and so, you know, it wasn't anything we hadn't done before, and I think that sometimes it's just about, like, knowing your kid. I'm not a parent, so I don't know, but my understanding is, like, you know your own kid, what they can handle, and they knew that I was very independent, and you know, I was kind of the responsible one. Like, even though my brother was 2 years older, and at that point they wouldn't have let me go on my own at 12, but they would let me go with him. But I don't think they would have let him go on his own, because I was the one who would have tattled, you know, like I was the rat, I was the narc. Yeah, I was the one keeping us a little bit in line.
Well, many of you, can show of hands people who've read the book already? See, we've got, I know, so you all are in on the story. The rest of you are such a treat, such a sassy treat. Well, Anna began her Broadway career at the ripe old age of 12, correct? And you were playing a younger character of Tracy Lord in High Society?
No, it's her younger sister, Dinah.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Sorry. And so you had 1-2 big numbers of your own in the show, is that right?
Yeah.
And the rest of the time, you were in a few scenes, but you were hanging out backstage with all these folks. Was your father there for every show as well?
No, I think he would occasionally, like, go see other shows, you know, like, I mean, every night, you know.
Yikes.
Yeah, I mean, he would drop me off sometimes, and, I mean, my dad's also, like, the guy who will wander around every city and just go, what's that building? You know, like, when you show your parents around somewhere that you've lived, and they're like, what's that building? You're like, I don't know, why would I have ever bothered to figure that out? But then I called this movie, there's a building outside my hotel room window, and there's a smokestack, and I found myself going like, I wonder what's in that building. I should ask a local. I should ask someone who's from Seattle. And then I was like, why would they know? Why would they know? It's a real small building with one smokestack. Why would they know? So I imagine like maybe some of that time was spent wandering around and asking people what stuff was.
How long were you in the run of High Society?
It was only like 6 months, which at 12
That's
was
a long time. That's
Yeah.
a very long time.
Yeah.
Wow. And so your dad and you lived in an apartment? Or?
Yeah, an apartment in Yonkers. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty impressive that your family. What do you think they recognized really early on that they had a super creative child that was going to do this?
I have often wondered that, and I know that I could ask, but part of me is like, you know, maybe it's hard to have a perspective on what your thinking was when, you know, you've come like so far down a certain path. And also part of me is like, I don't know if I want to know. I don't know that that would help me in any way to ask them, like, did you guys think this was a phase? And like part of me wondered, are they just cool with me getting into acting because, you know, basically any parent of someone who is considering getting their child into acting goes like, well, you know, like one commercial and that starts a college fund. That's one of these things that gets said. And I always wondered if that was their thinking too. It's just like, maybe she'll get a national commercial and then like that's her college fund.
And then of course you didn't go to college, so that probably that.
Well, I never booked a national commercial either.
Oh, really? Oh, that makes me
so bad at it.
Oh, me too.
So bad at it. They like because those, you know, when you're little, it's just like they want you to be really, really excited about like pink Hot Wheels, and I was like, what do I have to get excited about? What's my motivation? So I never booked any of those kinds of jobs, but I don't know. The truth is, like, if they were like, oh, this is what she's gonna do, whether if she is very successful or not, like this is what she's gonna be pursuing her whole life, or if they thought this would be like a weird footnote to my life that I was on Broadway as a young person, or if before that they were just like, well, maybe she'll get a commercial, whatever. I don't really know.
I hate to say that I love hearing that you never got a national ad, because that's so awful to say, but it's, you know, they do. You can make a lot of money, but they are the worst.
Yeah.
And actors get hooked into them if they are good, and then you get known as Flo.
Yeah.
Or, you know. Good for her. I mean, she can put several kids to college on, on Progressive, but.
I know, I can't help but watch every single commercial and go, I wonder what that audition was like.
Yeah.
And it's actually really fun. Like, if you watch commercials, because you forget that it's not just, like, the only person in, like, a commercial with Flo. It's not just Flo. There's, like, someone who, like, hands her something. And I'm always like,
jumping ahead, and for those of you that have not yet read the book, you had the opportunity to choose a person who was going to portray one of your body parts, not your hand.
My derriere.
Your derriere, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated the sympathy you had for the people, and I agree that not only did Anna get to look at their derrieres, and they were bare derrieres, right? Yes.
No, it was like they came up to me on set one day, and they gave me like a binder, like a trapper keeper full of Polaroid photographs that looked like they'd been taken like by a serial killer. They were just like white wall, and then just no head, body. And they, for whatever reason, photographed them from the front as well.
Just in case you did a little spin in the scene.
No, it was all literally in my contract that the body double would be showing like the upper part of her butt and nothing else, not the whole butt, not the front. Like it was in my contract that like even a body double was not to be shown from the front, but they still showed me their naked fronts. They don't look like other than a conspiracy to make me feel like a pervert. And I had to like very professionally go, yes, I see. And I didn't know what faces I should be making while I looked at it. And then like realized like I didn't really know what I was looking for in a female butt. Like obviously I wanted it to be a nice butt, but then I was like, I haven't thought much about the criteria for a nice butt. And I started to choose one, and the producer was like, well, like literally as I was about to point to it, she was like, well, we shouldn't use that one because her butt's a little square. And I was like, I didn't know a butt could be square. These are just new things to feel insecure about.
Doesn't that seem cruel? Because you wouldn't even see the square part if you were only showing the upper part. So
is that what she meant though? How would I know?
I guess now you know too much about my
butt. If I like looked at it and was like, oh, SpongeBob SquarePants over there, then sure. Perfectly reasonable butt. So the fact that someone was saying like this is kind of square, I was like, is it? What part of it is square? It looks like a butt. I don't know. So I gotta do some research.
So let's go back just for a minute to your time on Broadway. You did A Little Night Music, which was a Stephen Sondheim musical. It was a revival, though. At that time, was he at all involved in the production?
He was actually, because it was an anniversary. I don't recall whether it was an anniversary of him or Night Music or what anniversary it was, but he was involved. He was at the Beavis Theater, and not the Beavis. You guys know. He was at the Sitz Pro, where you know.
Yes.
It's the first time that the cast and the orchestra sing and play together, so he was there for that, and he was also there. Actually, he was also there on the very first day when we do kind of a table read, and he had made a cameo. I forget his parts in the book, so I'm sorry if I'm boring you guys. He had made a cameo in the movie Camp.
Yes, I was going to bring up Camp. I would love to know.
He made a cameo in the movie Camp. So we had met very briefly, but he had seen my performance, but he knew my face. And when we did the first day on A Little Night Music, he walked over to me. I was feeling like super intimidated by the people playing Petra and Anne and Henry, because they're kind of the older cool kids. And I was 17 at the time, and he walked over and kind of in front of everyone was like, Anna, it's nice to see you again. And I was like, oh! So I felt like the cool kid, like I was like at the cool lunch table. Yeah, it was a good moment. Yeah.
For those of you who have not seen Camp, it is available. You can find it, and you should. I watched it recently, and
it's a bizarre movie.
Oh, very.
It's my first movie, and it's bizarre.
And it is, as they say, uneven.
It is.
It is uneven, but she is spot on. And as I believe it's the camp director, the theater director, calls her character, you are a scary little girl. And pretty
even though I'm 16 in the movie, I look about 10. So it made that whole
Until she sings The Ladies Who Lunch.
And then I look 40.
Yeah. Did you, or Todd, the director, did he intentionally go for a Liz Taylor, Richard Burton, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf look for you? That black wig.
Wait.
So
who's a super nerd and knows what I'm about to say? No? Okay, not you guys. It's funny you say that because the like Easter egg at the end and beyond the end of the credits is me doing a scene from Virginia Woolf.
Oh,
from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and I'm in the Liz Taylor wig.
Okay, that is.
So I wonder if you internalized that. No?
No, I didn't see the Easter egg. I did not see the
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, I cut it out before all the credits ran.
No, that's really fine. So I wonder if you've seen it and thought, oh, she does kind of an Elizabeth Taylor and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Well, your Ladies' Lunch was so tailored to me.
Oh, that's so funny.
Well, I applaud you for being 16. It's so, wow. I can't come up with the right
I
word.
actually do remember the makeup artists on that movie were amazing, and like we really got for such a deep cut indie film. Like there were people who were just passionate about the material, and so we ended up getting these really incredible like artists for makeup artists, and they did a really interesting thing where Jill, who is the girl that I poisoned with bullet, she is wearing her makeup a certain way for that performance, and they basically did the same makeup but like too intense on me, as though I had like studied her and copied her and hadn't got it quite right, so that I looked even more kind of crazy. And it was one of those things that I don't think anybody that had read at all. I even mentioned it to some of the cast members that weren't there the day we filmed that, and they were like, "Oh, I didn't pick up on that. Like, you don't look crazy." But like, we were so blessed to, even though like we were working on a shoestring budget, and some of the references were very, very obscure, like we had an amazing team around us. So yeah, the movie is definitely uneven, but like such an amazing experience.
Well worth seeing very early on Kendrick. I highly recommend it.
It's on Netflix.
There you go. Thank you. Well, maybe we should move on to rather than stay in New York, East Coast, you decided to come all the way over to Hollywood. What made you decide I'm going to go TV and film for a while?
It wasn't like a big decision. It was actually when I was finishing up A Little Night Music. I auditioned for a TV pilot and got it, and like moved to LA just to shoot. Well, so I went to LA to shoot the pilot, and then the pilot got picked up. So that's when I kind of like moved to LA because I was going to be in a TV show. And we shot one episode of like what would have been the season, and they went, "Oh, this doesn't work anymore. We hate this. The pilot was good, but we hate this." And so they canceled it, even though they had picked it up. We only ever filmed one episode. So then I was just, I had planned to live in LA, like I leased a place, and but I had been, I got paid to do the pilot in the first episode, so I had a little money, and I was like, well, I might as well stay out here, and a new pilot season was starting, and I thought, well, I'll just, while I'm here. And then I think, like so many people that originally say, I don't live in LA, I'm going back to New York, that's totally me. It's just the quality of life is so much easier. When you're broke, like living in LA is so much easier than living in New York. And it's tough to imagine packing your life back up and trying to get a studio in Brooklyn. So before long I was living in an apartment with two gay dudes, just living the dream. Where was that?
I think every young actress lives with a gay guy. I know.
Yeah.
A gay. Listen to me. Lives with a gay.
I thought you said gay guys. So
totally.
Yeah.
So I did read that you went to an audition for a character that they said they wanted an Anna Kendrick type.
I mean, that's happened.
If it's happened,
Yeah.
Did you get the part?
I don't remember, so probably not. But I feel like that, I've heard a lot of people say that. Like, I think, Steve Agee maybe tweeted that recently. Like, I think that's something that has happened to a lot of people. But to me, it sort of just shows how uncreative people are. Mm-hmm. Not just that they say like they want that kind of a person, but that they mean like that, but not that. Like that's what they mean by that. They're not going to just hire that comedian or whoever it is. Like they mean like it but similar, but instead of finding a way to describe that, they just say like that, but we're not going to hire that guy. So everyone's the worst. That's right.
So I never was in choir, but I always admired that. Pitch Perfect fascinates me in the riff-off scene. And I know this will shock all of you, I don't rap. So what are those scenes like? How intensely are they written? How much rehearsal do you do? Do you go into the studio, lay it down there, and then you have to match it?
Well, a couple things. I was in a lot of choirs growing up. I was in at a minimum 2 choirs concurrently, like a really cool person is. And I would absolutely say that if you like to sing, get yourself in a choir, because I have definitely met people who have great voices and they don't. I'm not very musical. Like I use sheet music.
Okay, no, wait a minute. She just said she's not.
No.
Musical. Really?
I don't have the musicality. Like I can't sight read. Stuff like that. But there are people that I've met that have such great instruments and they don't know how to use them. And I think that a lot of the times it's people who've been in a choir and people who haven't. So choir was really helpful to me in helping me become more musical and without kind of having to commit to hiring someone to teach you music theory, because I'm not going to do that because I'm lazy. The riff-off scenes are interesting because the kind of musical consultants, like the guy who basically teaches us what to do on those movies, the guy named Deke, and he is in an a cappella group, and they're very, very good, top of their field, and they say that which surprised me actually, the realistic thing about those scenes is that they do something at their concerts where toward the end they just say somebody shout out a song and they can just kind of magically intuit well, okay, I'm gonna take this harmony, you do the vocal percussion, you do the guitar riff, and that they kind of just figure it out really quickly in the moment, and it's this kind of magic thing that happens. And that the thing that doesn't make sense is that in the original one anyway, the game was that you had to pick up on a lyric and start singing it from. A lot of people didn't even follow that part because it was too confusing, so they just kind of glossed over it, and then it was just no, they just start singing, and then the next person starts singing. But that you're supposed to, the last word of that lyric is to be the first word of the lyric that you sing. Okay, some of you are nodding. Great, you guys get it. And he was like, that is impossible. They got the group together to try it to see if they could do it, and it's impossible. So it's a very clever idea for a game, but that's why I think in the second movie they made it to match the beat, which, that's a little bit silly because you can just slow down or speed up the song. Yeah, they didn't try to continue that bit of the game. But sorry, to answer your question,
no,
yeah, there's quite a bit of rehearsal for it, and anything where there's multiple people singing, it'll be a pre-record. But on the first one, when I run in and I'm singing No Diggy, that was live. But then once Rebel starts singing, it has to be pre-recorded. I think it's mainly just to kind of cover our asses and make sure that most takes are usable, and it's easier to rely on a live performance when it's just one person, and then once you start adding it in, it's like, well, what is the point that you go to the pre-record? So that's basically how we do it.
So what's the similarity, and this is a stupid question, the point, I guess what
I can't wait.
Yeah. So I'm trying to compare singing for Pitch Perfect with singing for Into the Woods. Both films, both where you're singing, moving around, a lot of multiple shots.
Yeah.
Was it a similar process or not?
It was similar. I mean, I think, Les Mis had been made either the year before we made Into the Woods or 2 years or something, and their whole mission was to do everything live, and that meant that they were restricted to a very specific style of filming that was very effective in that film. And Rob had a very different vision, and he wanted it to be very visually stimulating, and he didn't want it to just be long shots on someone singing. Especially if the music is just more intricate, and you can't really do a single shot of someone singing sometime. That would be weird. So we did do a lot of it pre-recorded because it's just impossible to kind of match shots if it's from like literally 12 hours later. You like are cutting to a take from 12 hours later, but it's supposed to be the moment after. And I was in a corset, and that restricted my.
It was a really, really, really pretty dress.
Yes,
you did. You were really pretty.
They did a great job, and they almost sucked the life right out of me.
Of course, we'll do that.
Yeah.
And high heels.
Yeah, and it was one of the more vocally demanding things that I had done. So I was glad that a lot of it was pre-recorded. We did some of it like something like No One Is Alone. You have more room because it's these, there's a stillness and the camera is more still. And then Steps to the Palace, we were doing a lot of camera moves, but also cuts, and I'm running around, and it would have been a lot more pant-y, and it's just not really what you want from sometimes. So,
do you sing with yourself when you're singing to a pre-recorded tape? You actually sing out loud. You don't sing.
Yeah, and there were times when I knew that they were recording the live sound, even though they were playing it, and I had an earwig in, and the intention was to use the pre-record, but there were certain things that when you're in it on the day, suddenly a choice doesn't make sense anymore. And there was I think there was a moment where I had done something, I'd sung something like kind of too pretty, you know what I mean? And we wanted it to be a little bit, just show the thought process a little bit more, which meant that it should be a little bit more surprised and it just be clipped. And so I knew they were recording the live sound, so they couldn't have really been using the live sound because they were still piping the music through this loud system, because that's how Rob liked to do it, to just have everybody listening to it, which was unusual because usually you're just listening to an earwig, but he just liked the atmosphere. And but I knew that I could use it as a guide so that when we did ADR, I could go in and listen to what I had done and then match that. And that's how you make movies. I feel like I just told a really long line.
I know, no. Sorry, I'm asking questions. We're going to turn quickly here to some questions from the audience, but I find it fascinating. I like to know how the sausage is made. I still go back and I really love the sausage. Oh, hey, that's not naughty, and I didn't mean it to be. So, folks, this is what you want to know from Anna.
Rubber.
How often have you become best friends with your fans after a book reading? And she's sweetening it here. We know some great Seattle bars.
Almost every single time. So many best friends, you guys. I don't know, let's start tonight, I guess.
So this is from, oh, excuse me, didn't mean to step on you. Hunter Badass Gainer wants to know, what song or songs in Pitch Perfect did you want to use but you couldn't get the rights to use?
The only like songs that I ever suggest are like really weird indie songs that don't really make a lot of sense, and I understand why they go like, you know, shut up, we're not doing that. But there was actually, the thing that we all couldn't get over was that in the second movie there's a riff-off category called like John Mayer's Exes, or I Dated John Mayer, and there's no Katy Perry song. And we were like, how do you not use a Katy Perry song? But it was about like getting the rights to her song, because in like if we wanted to do that song as a performance piece, you can kind of just like shell out the cash. But it's favored nations when it comes to the riff-off songs, which whatever you're paying one song, you have to at least pay, you're paying every song the same amount. So if they shell out more cash for that one Katy Perry song, they have to shell out more cash to everybody. And you know, I appreciate it. She ain't cheap.
So apparently she's more expensive than Taylor, because we are never. Lighthearted here. You mentioned dating a guy who couldn't give you an orgasm for months. Why on earth did you put up with that? That's true. Oh, I'm so sorry.
These kids know everything.
And why did you put up with that for so long? You're a national treasure. You deserve better.
You know, there are times in a young woman's life where she does not know her own worth.
Yes, this is true.
And she does not wait and say, no, you cannot license my song for that amount of money. You know, I think you just gotta go through that sometimes. And hopefully, some of you will not allow that to happen to you. Learn from my mistakes, children.
Thing that you do when you get up in the morning to help you get going or start your day?
I usually eat a power bar and put on an old episode of 30 Rock. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the greatest television show ever.
That's how you going. 30 Rock.
Yeah. That's usually it.
Nice. If you could travel, sci-fi. If you could travel to the past or future, which would you choose and why?
Ooh. Well, there's definitely part of me that would love to go to the 60s, like be in my 20s in the 60s. That'd be really fun. But I also feel like, you know, we are witnessing the dying breath of the white male patriarchy, so the future would be fun too. And the gentleman in the audience, when we talk about that, all that means is we hate you. That's what that means. So don't worry, we're just plotting against you, actively.
So just a really fast jump to 2020.
He is not that kind. Do a shoulder shake now, I love it.
Hey Anna, Taco Bell or Chipotle?
Taco Bell. Come on. You're gonna go to Chipotle and pretend that that's not fast food? Get your life together, go to Taco Bell. It is horrible, it's disgusting, but at least commit.
They're very interested in your dining. When you say you hate licorice, you mean East Coast licorice, not West Coast, right?
Okay, I don't know what that means.
I don't either. What is West Coast licherish.
Who has that? Who has that? What does that mean? Okay, first of all, I'm talking about black licorice, obviously. Because it's the devil's food. No, red licorice is fine. Yeah. Oh, she's mad. Okay.
Here's a book question. Were there any stories you second-guessed putting in the book?
I second-guessed the orgasm story. Actually, Glamour magazine had I had a deal with them where they were allowed to run the first excerpt from the book, and they chose that chapter.
Really?
I know, shocking. And they kind of half rewrote it. And I was like, excuse me? And so to punish them, because I'm petty, I was like, I'm gonna take out the stuff about the orgasms, because I know that's the only reason you chose this chapter. And left that just for the book readers, because there is definitely some stuff in the book that I feel comfortable knowing that someone has read the book and they're in it with me, and knowing that it is totally fine for people to chop it up and kind of take things out of context on purpose. That was the thing that made me nervous, and trying to let go of that was hard, because I think that if I had let them run that particular section in that first look piece, it would have been the only story of me promoting my book would have been orgasming. And it's weird because I'm comfortable talking about that when it's on my terms, but the idea that anybody could come up to me and start asking me about that, in a public setting or on TV, I was just I don't think I want to be that girl. So there are things that I was really nervous about, and actually one of the ones that I was nervous about for totally different reasons was I kind of talk about being nice and the label nice, and how I don't think that's valuable, or as valuable as people try to make it seem, especially for women and girls. And I wrote it while I was in a mood, and I wrote it really quickly, and I owed my editor a bunch of stuff, and I sent all that to her in a Word document, and then I just in the body of the email included this thing about being nice, and I was like, I know you don't even want this. I was in a mood and I wrote this thing, and I know you're not going to want it. And I think it's one of her favorite things in the book. But even when she said that, I was debating taking it back out, because I just thought I was again opening myself up to being now I'm the spokesperson for not being nice or something. I don't know. I felt strongly enough about it that I felt like I would be fine defending it. So that's sort of what those things came down to. It was not even if, when people intentionally take this stuff out of context, am I going to be comfortable defending it?
Fabulous answer, thank you. And I know that those of you that haven't read the book yet are really going to appreciate Anna's take on being nice, not just in Hollywood, but as not even just a young woman, just as a woman. And then I genuinely don't think that it should be the thing we're supposed to strive for above certain other qualities. Right, scrappy and...
Yeah, I mean, I have worked with, the men that I work with, I don't value their niceness. I value their ability, their practicality, their intelligence, and basically just being not crazy. Because there are a lot of those in my industry. And if you're not crazy, I'm thrilled. Because you can be nice and be crazy. So, it's just one of those funny things that bothers me. So what I'm trying to say is I was creating an excuse to be mean for the rest of my life.
So, someone wants to know, out of all the characters that you played in your young old life, who is the most like you and why?
I actually don't. I had a weird moment. We were doing Q&A in Philadelphia, and a guy stood up and was asking me, he was like, how do you prepare for a role? Like, Catherine in 50/50 was a psychiatrist who was, very well-meaning, but she was very naive and kind of fumbled the ball a lot. And, how do you prepare for playing a role like Catherine in 50/50 as opposed to, like, Becca, from Pitch Perfect, how do you prepare for playing a role who's so different from you? And I was like, oh, you think that I'm less like Catherine? That's really interesting. And he just 100%, said it very confidently. And so I don't really know if I have a great answer to that, because it's just it's sort of just about amplifying a quality that I relate to, even if it's not a quality that I personally relate to. Natalie from Up in the Air is kind of based on a good friend of mine, and that was kind of how I got into that character. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Stacy from Scott Pilgrim. She's not super well developed, so I can just say, yeah, she's just kind of dry, and she is a little sister. So that's me.
That works. So what was your character in Wedding Dates? Was her name April? What was her name? Alice. Okay, so that you and Aubrey did a lot of improv on that, yeah?
So much improv on that movie. I genuinely don't remember shooting 80% of the stuff in the movie. I'm I don't remember saying that. I really feel like I'm watching an animatronic version of me saying things I didn't say. I think we all went a little crazy by the end of that movie. We were spouting nonsense.
Does the crew just get blasé at some point? They never laugh?
I think Adam Devine made everybody laugh.
Okay.
That kid is a machine. I'm really glad I've done 3 movies with him now, because he was in Pitch 1 and 2, and he's in Mike and Dave. And now we kind of made it a thing that we're never going to acknowledge each other on screen, because we never interact in either of the Pitch Perfect movies, and we don't actually interact in all of Mike and Dave. We're in the same room, but we never look at each other. So one of us is Tyler Durden, for sure. But I am genuinely so grateful that I don't have to interact with him, because nobody makes it, and I'm a super easy laugh. So I would have added 30 days to that shoot, just for
So I would guess that some people in the audience have really enjoyed Emma in the Twilight series.
You're really excited. No, there were a lot of people excited, but you put your hands up, that's fine. Yeah.
And you devoted a fair amount of time in the book to Twilight. Do you want to share one quick for those who haven't read the book yet?
Sure. It was weird that, I was only ever on those movies for 2 weeks at a time, and I was really surprised. If you told me that I was going to have a whole chapter devoted to Twilight, I would have been did somebody pay me extra to do that? Why would I do that? But there were just so many bizarre stories. It was just one of those sets that seemed to breed absurdity. And gosh, I'm wondering. So on the last movie, we're shooting. Okay, for those of you who haven't seen it, there's a vampire. So there's a wedding in the last movie that I was in. Or maybe it wasn't the last movie? No, it was number 4. I don't know. And we shot it in the forest. The forest. I know you're picturing a field, and then there's we go 5 feet into the forest, and that's where we're shooting. No, we're shooting in the forest. Because it's basically the only way that they could keep paparazzi away, and there was can't let anyone get a shot of like Kristen in the wedding dress and stuff. And at a certain point, there were helicopters. It was like we were in the third act of Goodfellas. It was awesome. So we were filming it in the forest, and like we would drive like 40 minutes every day. But even the hotel we were at was this like secluded resort, and they had to shut it down because, again, we couldn't have like other guests, like normal guests, staying in the hotel and like ruining certain surprises and getting pictures and stuff. So it was just the cast and crew in this massive hotel in the middle of nowhere. And the internet didn't work. And the only book that I brought was The Shining. And so I was just like trapped in this room for a couple of weeks, just like reading this book and with nothing else to do, and getting increasingly freaked out because like every now and then I would look out the window and there would be like paparazzi and I was on the ground floor. And they were like just surrounded by woods, and there were like actually people. Like you're not paranoid if people are actually out to get you. And we did the like cast party a couple weeks before the wrap, and earmuffs. We had say his name. Yeah, again, no. And I had a little too much, and locked myself in my room, and I don't remember anything. Like I kind of like blacked out, and when I woke up, like all the furniture and all my luggage was piled up against the door. So the moral of the story is, don't go to a hotel in Squamish, British Columbia, and read The Shining.